I was a volunteer, and so one of the pastors called me. I need someone to come oversee all of our volunteers. The wording was, I need you to be creative. I need you to create a new thing. To which I said, lady, I'm not creative. I work in accounting. 10 minutes later, we walk into service, and our executive senior pastor is like, I feel like there's people that think they're not creative because they're not in worship, but I just want to remind you, like, God's a creative God. Let's just say he has people, I don't know, you're in accounting, and you think you're not creative. The Lord made it so obvious that it was like, hey, you need to make a shift. If I were to do this role, one, I would love it. Like, it'd be so life-giving. But if I say yes to this, my life looks different because people are going to go, hey, that's his job. Whereas if I did as a volunteer, people would look at it and go.
Well, everyone, welcome to the Amazing Kidsmen podcast. We're so glad that you're back. And today is going to be a very fun conversation because today we have someone who doesn't just love Jesus and doesn't just love to see Jesus' church built well, but he is the senior director of content here at Amazing Life. And he's overseeing the writing teams and a lot of the fun creative projects that we've got coming down the pipe that you don't even know about yet, but it's going to be good. So please give a warm, Amazing Kidsmen podcast welcome to Adam Wright. Hello, Adam.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Dude, I'm glad you're here. You know, you've been a part of Amazing Life for over a year now.
Yep. Yep.
Just about
right at a year.
Right at a year. Yeah. But recently come over into content.
Yeah. That's new.
And it's like the easiest job you've ever had.
Oh, so great.
Yeah.
We just eased right in and slowly turned on that fire hydrant.
Absolutely. Well, it's in what fire hydrant, honestly.
Yeah.
It's great. And like, I know that you're so thrilled, but actually you're doing a really great job. But I wanted to have you on today because one, I think sometimes we're so busy making things and putting it out into the ether and the unknown that people don't know who's behind all of the decisions or the things that they're creating or that are being created for them. And it's sometimes helpful. Like I'm a nerd that likes to take things apart and figure out why does it work? Who did it? Why did they choose this way? So I thought we could talk a little bit today about just some of the things that are coming down the pipeline, some of the decisions that we're making on content, but then also let people get to know who you are. Cause, you love Jesus. I'm 99% sure.
Yeah,
you follow Jesus.
Sure.
Yeah. And you've had a great journey over. You've been a pastor on staff at a church. You also have a very analytical mind, and you've worked in finance, managing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of budgets for organizations. And then you've also been a pastor that was in charge of guest experiences for churches that had tens of thousands of people showing up every weekend. And so, but before we even jump into any of that, when did you make the decision to follow Jesus? How did that work? And like, because I'm a product of Good Kids Ministry and church and whatnot, and I think you grew up in church with a great family. So what was that dynamic like?
Yeah, I'm very blessed to say, like, I was raised in a Christian home. I was in church pretty much my entire life. It was like I got born and church was every 3 times a week. And so like I grew up in church. The way I tell it though is like, I said the sinner's prayer every night.
Yes, you did.
Hundreds of times between the age of like 5 and 10. Like because when I grew up, like we would have, Sunday morning, but then we'd have Sunday night service. Yes. And so we'd go to Sunday night service and it was fire and brimstone. There was no kids ministry. So like I'm 6 years old sitting in there hearing the word of God preached, and it would scare the bejeebus out of me. And so as a kid,
did you have pews or chairs?
Oh, we had pews.
Yeah,
we had
cool.
snacks. Mom had little packs of cereal that we would eat, and we would lay under the pews. And then
I laid under the pews too.
Yeah. So I was one of those kids. But yeah, I was raised in the church, and it was a blessing. I would say I really encountered the Lord at 16. I was raised. I knew religion very well, but at 16, I went to a church conference in Gwinnett. It was Ford Youth Conference 2008, and Judah Smith preached Embrace Grace. I remember, I could quote the sermon to you today.
Really?
Like it's, yeah. And so almost 20 years later, but I met the person of Jesus in that moment and like understood relationship with God. And so that's when I really came to know the Lord. And really what started my journey when I got back, I talked to my youth pastor and I said, look, I'm all in. I want to follow the Lord. I want to serve him in his church. And like, what does that look like? And like any good youth pastor, he's like, you need to read the Bible and you need to start with John. And so
great advice.
Yeah. So I tell people my first experiences in churches. I read John 21 before I read almost anything else. And that's where Jesus is restoring Peter. And so he asked Peter the question, Peter, do you love me? And so I could still think like that's the first time I read something and thought, man, I feel like the Bible came alive to me.
Huh.
I was standing on the shore. It's like I'm looking at resurrected Jesus in the eyes and he says, Adam, do you love me? And I said, Lord, I love you. And he said, then feed my sheep. And at 17, I, in my infinite wisdom, took that quite literally. And so immediately jumped into small groups and started telling teenagers, man, if you want to come to church, you have a free ride anytime you want and you have a free meal. And when you offer teenage guys the ability to get out of the house whenever they want and free food, they show up.
Yep.
And so, man, that was the start of me getting in the church and serving in small groups.
You had this pastoral season where you started building systems and trying to make pathways and lanes for volunteers and for people to serve, not just in their gifting, but to feel seen.
Yep.
And like, we called it a guest experience pastor. Like it was like, hey, what are our volunteers and the people who come through our doors? So you were coaching our volunteers on how to host an environment and an atmosphere that removed roadblocks and got people into the presence of God in a really great way. So when they walked away, it was like, I felt seen, I encountered God, and like, I need to go back. Like, there's a lot in that. So like I'm making it's a shameless like switch over. And when it comes to student ministry and kids ministry, and what Orange has always been really passionate about is like the experience as a whole. Like it's not just curriculum. Like curriculum's important and you oversee the writers. So like as the curriculum people, we're not saying curriculum's not important, but it's not the only important piece. Like it's not the ends to the mean. Like it's a means to an end. And the end that we're trying to get to is that kids encounter God's presence, that they're shaped by the Holy Spirit into a Christ-likeness, and that their parents are a part of that journey so that it sticks, like that's the goal. And you were really good at trying to help people understand and catch the vision of if we do this small, it may feel small thing really well, it's all these little things that build up into one thing. But how did you get people and volunteers to catch the vision of like, because it may have felt like, and I think we have people that watch this or, kids pastors, volunteer kids pastors, they have volunteers that can sometimes feel like, hey, this doesn't matter. Like, I'm just gonna it's copy paste every weekend. Like, and there's the little things that can feel mundane or unseen or not valued. But you were so good at casting vision for that. Why did you tell people it mattered?
Yeah. So many things. But one, I'll start here is Luke 19, there's a story of Jesus and a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. We tell that story in kids ministry. Yeah, Zacchaeus. And so what I would try to remind people is, hey, if you read the story, Jesus has got a crowd. There's a huge crowd around him. He's working through the crowd, but he comes up to the tree and he says to Zacchaeus, come down because for today, I have to come to your house. Like I have to. And for that day, it was about Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
And so something I try to encourage people when we're serving, and sometimes it can feel like, hey, we're doing the same thing over and over and over, is I'm like, hey, don't underestimate the fact that Zacchaeus is in the room. And so I always ask the Holy Spirit, like, hey, God, I want to do the best I can to steward this thing long term, but for today, who is Zacchaeus? Like, help me see Zacchaeus. And when I feel like the Lord leads me to that, and he's like, hey, this is who today's about, then I'm like, all right, I know my goal, and I know what I'm, and again, you're right, that it's like, I think one of my pastors, I've heard him say this, is like the average person hears the gospel 21 times before they accept Christ.
Wow.
Average. And so a lot of times we don't understand that we're time 1 through 20. And so we get discouraged, or we're like, oh, I don't know if it made a difference. It's like, no, it absolutely did. You're sowing seed, you're watering, and fruit will come from that. And only one day will you understand the weight of everything that the Lord worked together. I like to say it that way, is like, hey, we are so committed to serving kids and serving people. Also, I believe God is going to serve them. He's doing stuff in their life we have no idea. And so it's like we're partnering with the Lord, and it's like, hey, we got to steward our part. One, it's an honor that he entrusts anything to us, but he entrusts this part to us. We're going to steward this part, and we're going to trust God's going to keep working that out through the rest of the part with the parents or throughout the week. And like, one way I'll say it is, for me, and I would say most people, you've been on a journey with the Lord. You didn't get it all in one service in one weekend. Like, it has been a long journey. And like the road to Emmaus, Jesus is committed to the journey.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right.
And revealing himself at different parts of that
different
journey.
parts throughout the time. And so it's like, all right, what's our part today?
Yeah.
And so it's the value of seeing Zacchaeus today and also understanding, hey, there's a bigger story here.
And then it's going to keep going.
It's going to keep going.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've got to play my part today. It matters today. And this thing's going to keep going.
I love that piece too, because I mean, in that chapter of Luke, Jesus is walking through crowds. Like there are multiple other stories that they didn't even record that day.
Mm-hmm.
We get the important one where he's like, I'm going to your house.
Yeah.
But Jesus was so good about serving the multitudes, but singling out the one of like, yeah, but today's about you. Like salvation has come to your home today.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so important that when we do it right.
Church conference is happening April 28th through 30th in Dallas, Texas at Preston Trail Community Church. If you've ever been to Orange Conference, you know that the collaboration and the energy in the room is electric. We renamed Orange Conference to Church Conference because we wanted to expand the scope beyond just kids and student ministry. So this year, we're doing some incredible sessions and workshops for kids ministry leaders, student ministry leaders, and executive leaders. This is a whole ministry strategy designed to equip your church with the best tools, skills, resources, and relationships. We're also going to be dropping 2 major announcements that will literally change kids and student ministry forever. And that's not a joke or an embellishment. The next era of ministry starts here. And you definitely want to be in the room when that happens. There are a bunch of ticket options available. Individuals, group tickets, digital, and also an option to host remotely as a host site. Applications are open to serve on volunteer teams, and that comes with its own set of perks. You can get tickets now or apply to serve at achurchconference.com. Now, back to the podcast.
And so this is one of the things that I loved about how you coached people, and I think it's really important. It's like, as a kids pastor, I can get really caught up in like, okay, so is the programming going to be great? And like, and it should be. Like, we want to do things with excellence.
Absolutely.
Are the small groups ready? Do we have the crafts? Is it going to be good? Is everybody feel coached? Is it going to be good? And then I can forget like, okay, but when the parent drops off their kid, do I know this parent's name?
Yeah.
Or is it like a man of God?
Yeah.
Like we all
do that. We do that. Brother, sister, good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
And like, it actually, like, especially at the church we were at, it was just so big. I started feeling convicted of like, if I don't know people's names, like, it doesn't matter how great any of this is. Like, it was really important that we valued what really mattered. And so like, you did a great job of coaching your teams on like, hey, we're going to see people.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing for kids pastors that I think sometimes like in the midst of all the important things, like there's really not one where you can pick and choose, like this is more important than the others. We can sometimes still forget or lose sight of it is about the people. Like parents, they don't want babysitting. Like they do want, like we want to help foster an atmosphere where their kids experience and encounter God. But we want to bring them into the journey of like, Don, how's it going, my guy?
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? Like today, like Timmy, like he prayed a prayer and he was saying that like, it's like, how do we make those connections? And so I'm really excited because with things that we have coming down the pipe, and we've got some really awesome tools that we've been working on. And this isn't about like some amazing plot, but what I'm saying is I've never seen getting to work with Chris and Malachi and even people who've been around Orange for a while, I've never seen people double down so hard on, okay, we're going to build the absolute best things to make the pastors thrive and make the parents feel like they can connect with their kids.
Yeah.
But as you look like towards kind of the things that are coming down the pipeline, what excites you for the future?
I think there's a move the Lord's doing across the world anyways, where he's just, we say this all the time, but the harvest is ready. Like it's so ready and people are hungry for it. I think God is equipping different people across the world and he's uniting his church. I just think he's bringing his church together. And I think about Acts 2, like when the Holy Spirit's moving, they stepped over language barriers and culture barriers. And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what God's asking us to steward in this season is like, hey, we're about to be stepping over a lot of barriers. And uniting his church, which is when Jesus chose that to be his last prayer before he went to the cross. I think we should take weight in that and think about that. But it's a big thing. And so I'm looking at relationships, connections, what God's doing in different places, and then seeing how he's like interweaving these things together. And I'm going, oh, this is so much bigger than like just one ministry or one area. Like, man, this thing is coming together to serve multitudes and to resource people across lots of different areas and ministries, so that they can honestly serve as many people as possible and be those pastors to their flock. I always tell our church partners, like, we are here to resource you so you can care for your flock. Like God entrusted those people to you.
Yeah.
And none of us have done this well enough that God should entrust a human soul to us.
Yep.
But he has. And it's like, man, that's humbling. And we are partners to the church to say, hey, we're going to provide resources, and then we're going to give it to you. And we want to entrust you as the church leader. God's entrusted these people to you. So, like, what do you need to do that we can't do? But we're going to provide the resources to support you to make that happen. So,
You went to Lee University.
Yep.
And then out of that, you ended up planting a church, didn't you?
Yeah, I helped. So my youth pastor planted a church in Woodstock. And so I got the amazing opportunity, fresh out of college, going in church planting, which is such a special ministry. And
It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
Yeah.
And so I know the pain. I've been there. I've done the thing of like, hey, I've got to work a job because I've got to have money to live, but also like I volunteer at the church. And so it's like everybody, you got 7 people, and it's like we tear up, we tear down.
Yep.
Before we even get to service, and it's like we start running slides, it's like we're cleaning the baseboards.
Yep.
Like we're doing all that. And so I did the church planting thing, and man, my heart goes out to the people in that season. It is such a real ministry that like is so impactful and shapes your life.
Yeah.
And it's a huge sacrifice. So all the people that do that faithfully for years, the church I helped with, they're now on year 10, and they got into their own building like a year and a half ago.
Oh my! So that long?
Like 8 years of like renting a space, tearing it up, setting it down, and just doing the whole thing. And then now they have their own building. It's beautiful and it's awesome. But
Someone once told Connie, my wife, and I, because we were going to help someone plant a church, and like it was my favorite thing. And at the time, I didn't understand it, and now looking back, and you'll probably understand this too. But it was the group of us that were going. He was like, "Hey, if you can do anything else, like anything else, if you have a gift that God has called you to operate in, other than planting a church, and you think you should maybe do that, do that.
do that thing.
Because this will break your heart.
Yeah.
It will break your mind."
Yeah.
But he was like, but if you can't wake up any day without thinking like, I have to do this, I have to build this church, I have to do that, then like do it, because it'll be the most rewarding thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we found. Like it was the most frustrating, heartbreaking, yet rewarding and like beautiful sacrificial season we ever found ourselves in.
Yep.
And then like we were crazy enough to where we ended up having 2 different churches that we were helping. Like, so we had the one that we had gone with, and then there was one here in DFW that had asked us to help them like plant. So we were just interim helping them get their kids systems up and going.
Yeah.
And they were meeting at a bar in South Dallas.
Wow.
So like at 5:30 a.m. on Sundays, we would drive back in from Austin, which is where we were planning the church because we still lived here. We'd drive back in at 11 p.m. on Saturday nights, wake up at 5:30 a.m., drive down a big U-Haul trailer to South Dallas, load in. But we were like sweeping up glass bottles and like because we have to put kids in here.
Yep.
And it's like, this is going to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, but it was the most, there's a special grace on people.
I was going to say, I feel like God gives a grace for it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, you never take it for granted when you get to Sunday and you get to see God like move in a kid's life or someone's life. You're like, it's worth it. Like all this is worth it. Like there's just such an appreciation for it.
Oh, a deep appreciation. And then you go overseas and you like visit European churches who they have the building, but they're using some of the same systems. Like where it's like, hey, we like load in this stuff during the weekend. And anyways, it's nothing is wasted. Like you just, God does something in you as you're building. So you've planted a church.
Yep.
And then you ended up getting married.
Yep.
Which is awesome. And then you came over to Dallas, and you ended up on staff at a church.
Yeah.
Here in Dallas, and we were on. We didn't work together, but we were on staff at the same church.
Yep.
And then through just some different. Did you start in finance at this church?
Yeah, this is what's crazy. So the background for finance, why finance? People ask me this all the time when I tell them I like work in the church, and then they find out like, oh, you worked in finance. They're like, that makes no sense. And the reason was, again, from the small group thing, I we blew up so fast. We had such a large small group coming to my house every week, like 30 to 40 dudes a week, every week. And I'm 17, so I said, like, I went to the church leaders and was like, hey, I need budget for this. Like, this is getting expensive.
Yeah. Do you know how much pizza these guys eat?
Like, do you know what they're putting down? Like, we are destroying restaurants. But like, I need help. And their feedback was like, hey, we just don't have the budget for you. Like, we can't help you. And there were reasons, but it was like, hey, we had built some stuff. Like, we built a building. We have some debt. Like, we just can't help you. And it broke my heart. And so what I saw is everybody was going to school for theology and to be a pastoral major. And I was like, God, I love that, but I just see such a gap in your church over here. I see no one standing in this area. And so I just decided, God, I'll stand over here, and I'm going to go to school for finance and business and accounting because I want to learn how to steward money so we can take care of people. And so that was me going to college for that. And so the reason I came to Dallas, I had a friend that was out at the church, and he called me one day and he's like, man, I know your heart to learn how to do this. You want to do this well. There's a church. I think they're really good at it. I have nothing to offer you. But if you want to pack up your stuff and drive out here, we may be able to get you on part-time cleaning the building. And maybe one day, and like over time, you'll get an opportunity to get in finance or to learn from them. And so prayed about it, felt like God told me to do it. And so I just packed up and said yes, started driving. I kid you not, from the drive from Atlanta, Georgia to Dallas, Texas. While I'm on the drive, my phone rings, and it's the director of finance and accounting. And they were like, hey, I don't know why, but your resume is here, and we have an opening. Would you ever consider working in finance for this church? And I was like, let me pray about that. Yeah, absolutely. And so, man, just through incredible opportunity that God directed, it felt like he directed, by the time I got to Dallas, I was working in finance. And I got to learn from some incredible leaders and see, again, the intentionality of, hey, here's how we're going to steward things Monday to Friday to make Sunday happen, and to serve as many people as possible. And so I got to do that for several years, and it was awesome.
And then from accounting, I know parts of the story, and it's just really great. But like, you didn't know if you wanted to make a switch over to like the pastoral track, and God made it pretty obvious one day. Yeah. How did that happen?
Yep. So I knew a lot of my giftings were relational. I knew it was like communication, includer, empathy, developer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to work in finance because I'm here to learn this and to grow in this skill set, but I'm going to serve my church in youth ministry because that's just how God's gifted me. And so started doing it immediately. Like, got there and was like, I'm going to do small groups. I'm going to be a small group leader. I'm going to be a volunteer. Had a couple conversations where people were like, hey, would you consider being a youth pastor here? And I just never felt like God said yes.
Right.
And when I prayed about it, I really felt like, man, if I were to do this role, I would love it. Like, it'd be so life-giving. But if I say yes to this, my life looks different because people are going to go, hey, that's his job. Whereas if I did as a volunteer, people would look at it and go, hey, regardless of what role I'm in, I could do that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to set that as my example, and I just felt like that's what God told me to do. Like, that's the seat for you to fill. And so I was volunteer. But from that, there was people that was opening for a different pastoral position, as you mentioned, our weekend services. And so one of the pastors called me. She was like, again, kind of similar. She was like, I don't know you. Like, she's like, all I know is you serve in students, and people keep telling me how great you are with the students you serve. And I need someone to come oversee all of our volunteers and all of our weekend services. There's a lot of logistics here. And
Which
honestly,
was a lot.
It was a lot. And they were like, honestly, Adam, like, I've had pastor after pastor, and they're so great. I know their strengths. I need someone a little more strategic. I need someone to create a process that when we have hundreds or thousands of people coming through, how do we not miss them? How do we make sure we catch everybody? And so the wording was, I need you to be creative. I need you to create a new thing. To which I said, lady, I'm not creative. I work in accounting. So that's not my strength. Like, I think you've got the wrong guy. Come out of that conversation. Literally, I'm telling one of my best friends about this at a staff chapel on a Tuesday. We have that conversation. 10 minutes later, we walk into service, into the chapel, and our executive senior pastor is like, hey, there's a new season, and I don't know if anyone in the room's ever struggled with the thought, like, oh, I'm not creative because I'm not in worship. And but
Minutes. This
yeah,
is minutes after.
within 10 minutes, he goes, but I feel like there's people that think they're not creative because they're not in worship. But I just want to remind you, like, God's a creative God. And let's just say he has people, I don't know, you're in accounting and you think you're not creative.
And he hadn't overheard, right?
No, he had no idea.
Yeah.
And I literally, and like the friend I was talking to just turns to me and goes, hey, that's really weird. And I was like, I agree. And so it's not because I was so spiritual that day. It's just the Lord made it so obvious that it was like, hey, you needed to make a shift. And so I called my boss then and said, hey, I think I got to take this other job. And
I think God spoke directly to me during our staff chapel.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was for me. And I saved that video. That would have been 7 years ago now.
That's insane.
Save that video and I keep it. And when I tell my story, I show people like, hey, God still speaks. Like there's still moments where he'll speak to you. And if you're open to hear it, like he'll make it pretty clear. So
that's, someone once told me like God speaks differently to like different people, but he usually speaks the same way to one person for most of their life. And so you figure out different rhythms or ways that like, oh, I've become attuned or aware, or I'm just like familiar with how God speaks to me personally.
Yeah.
Yours is really interesting because it's like, no, he's literally just going to have someone verbatim tell me from a platform.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do.
Okay. The funniest part of the story is the fact that I went home and I told my wife what happened, and she goes, I'm glad you caught on. I knew a week ago. She goes, I was just waiting on the Lord to speak to you directly.
I needed him to tell you.
But like, yeah, so now I just run everything by her, and I'm like, hey, what are you hearing? And it helps.
Funny.
So
there was something we were talking about the other day, and you were mentioning Joseph Parker.
Yeah, love Joseph Parker.
You're a big Joseph Parker fan, and he's awesome. You can give context for who he is, you were talking through a specific quote that he gave around, like, he's fine with all the different, I can't remember.
Yeah. So Joseph Parker, for context, is a English pastor from the 1800s, and I love reading his stuff. And so he was an English pastor in the 1800s, and he would go sit in services with Charles Spurgeon and then listen to his sermons, and then they'd go sit on a park bench together and argue afterwards, which, nobody, nobody's like, oh, I argue with Spurgeon. Like most people are like, Spurgeon's amazing. Yeah. And I agree. But what I love about Joseph Parker is the way he writes is so powerful. And every time I go home, my grandfather's been in ministry 55 years. Every time I go home, he has an entire commentary of the Bible and a different book from Joseph Parker. And every time I go home, he gives me another one. That's awesome. And so he's like, every time I go home, he's like, let me give you another one. And so what I was reading was in Acts, and again, talking about, the Holy Spirit empowering them to step over barriers and language barriers and all this stuff. And he was talking about denominations in the church. And he said, I have no issue with denominations any more than I would have issue with different regiments in an army. But he said, I would expect every regiment in the army to bow to one authority. Therefore, I expect every denomination to bow to one throne. Which I'm like, sheesh. Like,
there was no mic to drop back then, but like, he dropped his chalice. I don't know what it was. But
and he also said what's interesting. He said, notice that the debates or the disputes in the church, it never comes from us talking to our Father. It always comes from us just talking to each other. Like we'll argue theology with each other, but when we're seeking the Lord and praying to the Lord, we're pretty unified.
Yeah.
And so he just said, let that be a lesson to you that for whatever amount that you're going to have conversations to each other, you make sure you're having more to the Father. Wow. And so just again uniting the church. But love Joseph Parker, great pastor.
It feels like, as I look ahead, it feels like there's a really cool opportunity coming, and we're seeing it happen. But just there's a lot of unity gathering around the things that really matter, and centering on the things. It's like, hey, cool, we can all stack hands on this is who we love, so I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming days. But that was just really what I wanted people to get to know you, because they'll see more of you. You're going to be at conference.
Yes, absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be the 3 most important things that have ever been announced and talked about are happening at conference. Actually, no lie, there's like I think sometimes people are like, oh, okay, I'm like, no, it's like pretty.
It's pretty significant.
It's like pretty significant, and it's not just like people are like for Orange. I'm like, no,
like pretty big deal.
It's a pretty big deal. So come see us at conference. We're gonna be there. Also, if you want to talk to Adam, I like talking to Adam, but reach out to your CS. Like I tell people all the time, I love getting on calls with churches. Like it's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, For sure.
Yeah.
It's like the reason I love getting to do this is because I get to go and hear what God's doing in their church.
Yep.
And it's like, man, how can I support you? And so I was on a call yesterday with a guy that is a volunteer youth pastor.
Yep.
And so he uses our resources. And he was like, man, I'm using some of your resources for middle school, some for high school, but I've got to tie a thread. Like, it needs to be congruent. And so he was like, can we get on a call and let's just talk through the scripture references? Do you have anything else? And so we, for 30 minutes, just talked through, hey, like, here's how you could, it was on identity and purpose. And so I'm like, man, like, here's different scriptures you can use. And like Ephesians 2:10, like, you are God's craftsmanship made for the good works that he prepared for you. And so, like, how can we tie that into both series? So yes, I love talking to churches too.
Call Adam at the
Please call
number
me.
below. No, I'm joking. But yeah, we really do love talking to churches. But thanks for coming on.
Dude, honored to be here.
You'll be back.
Yep.
We've got a lot coming. So you guys stay tuned. We'll catch you next time. See ya.